Hi, this is Pat McDonald, your host for Vote for Vermont, where our tagline is listening beyond the soundbites. Joining me tonight is Eric LaMontagne, co-host. Hi, Eric. How are you?
Hey, Pat.
Hey. And our special guest is Chris Recchia, who's the managing director of ValleyNet. And we're going to be talking about something of interest to all of you, which is high-speed broadband in rural New England. Welcome, Chris. Welcome to the show.
Hey, thank you, Pat, very much. Thanks, Eric.
Do you like the studio? I screwed up this evening, and I'll just say it right. Somehow I'm home, and Chris is in the studio. So,
well, it's a beautiful studio, and we are definitely practicing social distancing. No problem.
Yes, we are. Yes, we are. So, anyway, could you tell our viewers a little bit about yourself and your background, skipping the parts that you know about me?
Yeah, absolutely. So. Thanks. So I grew up in Brattleboro, and not a Vermonter. I lived here from the age of 11, and then basically went to UVM undergraduate, did some work at Vermont Law School for the environmental law program, and then went to Yale University for forestry and environmental studies. So my background's both been mostly in energy and environment. And then I became, after stints with the state government as commissioner and deputy commissioner of environmental conservation, became commissioner of the Public Service Department, which also has telecommunications in its purview in addition to energy. And that's where I got my torture by fire, as I'd like to say, related to internet needs, broadband, and the need for that. And then I started with ValleyNet, which is the operating company for EC Fiber in East Central Vermont. And in May of 2019, I've been there a year and a half, and we've been been pretty amazing. We weren't expecting a COVID issue to rear its head, but it has certainly challenged our ability to meet people's needs.
Yeah,
can you go a little more into detail about ValleyNet, the history of ValleyNet, and that relationship with EC Fiber?
Yeah, actually, ValleyNet celebrated its 25th anniversary last year in 2019. It started as a dial-up internet company. You guys remember all those sounds? Yeah, and as things progressed and AOL came into the picture and a variety of others, bigger players, ValleyNet decided to go to exploring fiber to the home internet capacity and to really improve speeds. And they started a relationship with EC Fiber, which at that point was a group of towns that just had decided that it would be fun to work together on broadband issues. And that started in 2008. And by 2011, they started building a system. And ValleyNet was a design, builder, and operator of their system for them. In 2012, 15, no, I think it was 2015, EC Fiber converted to the East Central Vermont Telecommunications District, a CUD, or Communication Union District, under Vermont statutes that allowed groups of towns to form for the purposes of providing broadband. And ValleyNet's been along through that process. So we have been, up until recently, EC Fiber has been ValleyNet's exclusive client, and we've essentially been one and the same until ValleyNet started a project in Lyme, New Hampshire this year, which is kind of broadening out beyond EC Fiber's territory.
Okay, because I read something about Lyme fiber, so you just explained that.
Yeah, sort of,
yeah.
Right. A group of private investors in Lyme wanted to provide the same type of system we had in EC Fiber, and ValleyNet, is designed and is building that right now. We're about to turn on our first customer this week. So
that's exciting. Good for you.
Before we go on, can you, in 30 seconds, explain to people like what the benefit of fiber is? How is fiber different?
Oh, sure. Yeah. So fiber to the home, fiber is a guaranteed speed. First of all, it's solid from the hub and where we provide internet service right to your modem in your house. And that means we can guarantee the speeds of very fast speeds from 25 megabits per second to 800 megabits per second, or the series we offer. And the other thing that's important to note is it is symmetrical. In other words, the upload speed and the download speed are the same. So you might have DSL where you've got 3 download but only 1 upload, or 10 download and only 1 upload. Fiber is symmetrical, and so if you're uploading big files, we match those speeds. So, this is important, less so for when you're watching Netflix, but if you are an architect and want to upload, plans and diagrams, which take up a lot of space, you need that speed upload as well. And that most places are not, most providers are not symmetrical. The other thing I think that's important about fiber is that, and our mission, because both EC Fiber and ValleyNet are nonprofits, we are trying to provide a community-supported system where we're reaching the people who are unserved and underserved first, particularly so that those are not commercially viable. So Comcast won't go there, Consolidated won't go there, but we will go there. And in fact, we start there and work our way from there into the core of a town.
So Chris, you were talking about COVID, which we all know and love. And I read an article that you wrote in partnership with the Sorensen Group that was entitled Ahead of the Curve, How to Make Rural America a Priority During COVID-19, which is pretty much right up your alley. And I wanted to read a quote that I read in this article, because I never thought about it, and it was very interesting. It said, the major economic pillars of rural America, tourism, manufacturing, transportation, and oil and gas and coal production, represent sectors with the fewest jobs that can be performed remotely. And by contrast, urban areas have a higher proportion of digital economy jobs that can accommodate a distributed workforce and are more resilient to pandemic-related layoffs. I thought, well, I never thought of that. So you've done a lot of analysis. What are you coming up with all of with the jobs and how to keep rural America trugging along here, rural Vermont?
Yeah. Well, I would never say that the pandemic is a good thing, but I will say that it has opened our eyes to certain areas that if we're functioning highly skilled human beings with a brain, we will look at and say, hey, this is something that we can actually build off of. And what this means is, look, rural America, we know the economy has always been tough here, and also population is tough, right? We're seeing a declining population generally. Yep. Even with the COVID stuff that we've seen an increase in population. We see an increase in people's interest in working from home. We see an increase, I have seen people who are trying to sell or buy a house say, is there high-speed internet there? Because I need it for my job. Right. Right? And they're working from home, schooling from home. And it's a real opportunity to live in a beautiful place like we've always wanted, right? We want to live in a beautiful place and have an economy that functions and that can support us and have people live. And this, broadband, I've always thought it was an essential service like electricity or telephone. But the federal government has not always thought that, and it hasn't had the same emphasis as rural electrification did in the early 1900s, right? So what we're trying to do now is figure out how to build these systems without government support in real, really in significant measures. So that's what we've been doing. And the fiber to the home has provided a way to get high-speed internet to every household that is on the grid, at least. Sometimes people are really far off a road and it's hard to get to. But for the most part, if you have electricity or phone, we can get you fiber in the towns that we're serving.
That's great. Well, we've certainly learned it from the education this year, from the kids. Many kids have the access, but others don't. And how they're learning remotely is, I haven't quite figured that out. But
no, it's a real challenge. And that's why EC Fiber and ValleyNet started really early on in March, willing to hook up anyone who was on our system or could be on our system who had school-age kids, who was eligible. If they were eligible for free or reduced school lunch, we gave them internet for free. We installed it for free, and we've been operating it for free since then. And
that's great, Chris.
well, truthfully, I thought it was going to go through April, and then I thought it was going to go through. Then I thought it was going to go through June, the end of the school year, and then it was like, oh well, we got to do the summer, and now we're into the fall semester, and it's
Summer
all still the same. So basically, through the end of the year, I've just called it through the end of the year.
Right.
And we've done about 50 or 60 homes that way, where people otherwise couldn't afford it. Yeah.
Well, the way it's going now, it may be a little longer, Chris. You may need a.
I know. Well, we're going to have to start asking for some contribution pretty soon.
Right.
Well,
can't do this forever.
I know Pat hates it when I go off script here a little bit, but
I do.
Along those lines.
Not to mention your guest, Eric.
Are you finding that you're getting any support from the state in those efforts, or is this just all you?
Yeah, no, look, in fairness, they have been caught by this, the COVID thing as much by surprise as all of us. And I will say the state has been terrific since March. They have rolled out the CARES money very quickly, which enabled us to hook up mobile home parks, which would never have gotten service. Mobile homes, interesting feature that you may not know is that all utilities for mobile homes have to come in underground. So that adds extra cost that, even if somebody wanted our service normally from the public utility pole to their house, they have to pay that. And so you could have $1,000, $2,000 in underground costs that would be necessary for them to connect to internet, and they just could not afford that. We were able to get a grant from the state to hook up 13 mobile home parks, and we're about to finish that, which is 282 new households that could be hooked up.
That's great.
So yeah, the state has been really responsive, and frankly, I don't know how they do it. And since Pat and I both have a history with the state, I lived through Irene. That was enough for me. I didn't need another emergency or pandemic. So I am just as glad to admire and watch these folks do a heroic job at trying to make this work for everybody, and to be on the side that I'm on right now.
Well, I hope you're getting a lot of recognition for this effort, because I think it's excellent.
Yeah, we are getting some, and truthfully, the concept of fiber to the home was kind of looked at as the poor stepchild that wasn't really going to work when EC Fiber started. But in fact, by showing that we could do it, and I'll explain how we fund it shortly if you want, but we've been able to show that we've been a very successful model. And as a result, the statutes changed to enable towns to group up in these communication union districts, CUDs, and nine have formed in the last year alone. And they're all modeling themselves after us. So that's kind of admirable, showing that it can work.
That's awesome.
Imitation is the sincerest form of flattery, I guess.
Yeah, there you
yes,
go.
It is.
So back to where we were going, can you talk to us a little bit about Traverse City, Michigan?
Traverse City, Michigan?
You had the, when you were doing your analysis of the impact of COVID, you were looking to Traverse City for some of the things that they've done. If it doesn't come to mind, we can just talk about all the statistics you've run about COVID and.
Yeah, would you why don't you name those off, and then I'll respond to them. That would be terrific.
I think you had, I don't have it in front of me. There was a large report that you did about the impact of COVID on rural America and where it might be best to establish fiber versus another place, whether it was whether the the towns had all the necessary support that you needed versus other towns that may not have.
Right. Okay. So, this fits into pretty much, regardless of COVID, it would be true elsewise, that, for people to school from home or do work from home, they need this high-speed internet capacity. And those that are least able to travel are probably better suited to having this available to them, right? I mean, one of the things, Pat, this too, one of the things unique about Vermont, in spite of all our energy conservation and all the efforts that we put into environmental conservation work, our biggest expenditure in fossil fuels is travel. Right?
Exactly.
It's getting from point A to point B because everything is so far away. Everybody needs a car. Everybody's got to go somewhere. So in a rural setting, this is ideal for getting you to be able to reduce that footprint and impact. And you get to work from home. I mean, not to tell tales, but I have an employee that was always late to work. And granted, he had a decent commute. He had about a 40-minute commute, but he was always late. And, time after time, we'd have a conversation with him. Ever since COVID, and he's been working from home, he's been absolutely on time and exquisitely productive. So it actually is like, okay, so all I needed to do was get you to roll out of bed in your pajamas and you would be ready to go.
That's great. That's great.
Yeah.
My daughter is working from home and she loves it.
Yeah.
She loves it. And they're talking in her office about keeping that permanent because there are some jobs like her that what she's doing on a daily basis. And that was always the state's concern, was that if you couldn't have a tangible proof of what somebody was doing, how do you know they're doing it? And
yeah, exactly. And and it is productivity. You can, everything is measurable if you spend the time to do it. And, I think it's important to have a work plan for people that are working from home. I like to ask them on a weekly basis, what did you do this week? And what are you planning on doing next week? And then keep checking in. And, that works pretty well. And I grant you that people are taking more flexibility in their schedule at home. They might stop for 10 minutes to put in the laundry and or to get a cup of coffee. And that's not the end of the world as long as the result is good. And, I think you're right. I don't think anyone is going back to the way things were entirely.
It's going to be different. It's going to be different. I would be going to the refrigerator, which is why I prefer to work in a work setting.
Right. Good point.
That aside, I have had the COVID-19 pounds, like they used to say, the freshman 15. Now it's the COVID-19. I'm getting close.
I know what you mean.
I know exactly. So, Eric, you want to jump in?
Oh, sure. I thought it was your turn.
I stopped gabbing.
Yeah. Let's see, where were we? This is one of our more anyways, let's move on. So I lost my place a little bit here.
Has COVID impacted your ability to pursue your goals? There you go.
Yeah, so you set the goal, and I actually listened to you. You did a lot of talking on VPR and in some of these committee meetings when the pandemic first started, and you said that you had the goal of trying to finish the 1,400 underserved miles within your 23 member towns. Now, of course, that was the pre-COVID goal.
Right.
How's that goal coming along?
Well, it's coming along okay. We've been essential workers from the beginning. We've been considered that because of broadband needs. So obviously we had to institute a bunch of new protocols. I had most staff working from home during the beginning. And then I had installers. The installers are the people who have to go into people's houses. And there I needed really strict protocols. We were asking people when we were scheduling whether they had come in from out of state, whether they were here for 2 weeks, whether they were sick. We also were calling them the night before and saying, is everybody still well? and we're requiring masks. My installers were doing hand sanitizer before and after each install. We're asking customers to sanitize surfaces that we might be near, where their computers were, things like that. And we were asking them, frankly, to stay the heck out of our way, right? Stay away from us.
Right.
And normally, you know, in the old days, back in January, we would sit with a customer with a folder of information and walk them through it, you know, side by side, and make sure they knew how to get into our system, what was involved, blah, blah, blah. And now it's like, I'm sorry, we can't do that. I'm leaving the brochures in the folder for you. Call if you have any questions, you know, and that's been a necessity here. But we've been operating pretty straight since the beginning. But what I will say is the demand for our service has increased exponentially. We have record number of subscription requests. We're doing record number of installations and record number of builds. And Eric, of the 1,400 miles, we've built about 1,200 to 1,300 miles of it. Almost all of it lit. There's some more, when I say lit, meaning there's fiber optic light going through it and we can run it through the hub. But we have more. And I am trying to get our core 22 towns done by the end of the year. And I think I'm going to be close, but not quite there.
That's great.
Wow, that's fantastic.
Chris, where do you find your employees? It sounds to me like they really need some serious skills.
Yeah, interestingly enough, a lot of this, it's sort of like if my computer isn't working, I want to call my 8th grade eight-year-old nephew to help me straighten it out.
Exactly.
These folks have grown up with this, and a lot of them are self-taught. It's interesting because I truly only have a few employees that are college educated of the 25 I have. But they're really passionate about the work. They understand the systems. A lot of them have learned on the job, which is really cool. I mean, it is a hands-on type system that you're learning as you go. And frankly, things change so much that I'm not sure a college degree would have helped. It's all like, can you interpret what's in front of you right at this moment? And
yeah, when I was listening, it sounds more like a technical education experience and something that could be taught in VTC.
Yeah, I would love to work with VTC. We've certainly had conversations with them about making this a curriculum.
Sure.
And I think that's really important because we definitely could use, you know, more help, and we look for experience, obviously, but we're willing to train as well.
Oh, okay. That's what I was wondering. But VTC would be a perfect partner on this one. Because it sounds like you're just going to grow. Yeah,
and you know, with the nine other CUDs around the state, they're going to need our help of designing, building, and operating a system. None of them are planning on doing that themselves, and by the way, we don't want to do this exclusively ourselves. So we're actually trying to encourage other companies to get into this business. That may sound strange, you know, to invite your competitors in, but truthfully, we know we don't want to grow that big. We don't want to grow that big that we have to try and cover the whole state.
You were looking at New England primarily, right? Which, or which would be another section going east rather than going west in the state. So
that's true. That's true. And frankly, you know, this model can be used by anybody to do this well, and we've shown it can be financially stable and work really well. And I think it's not rocket science to make this work.
That's great. This is the answer to the last mile we've been talking about for the last 10 years.
Exactly. We go to every single household that, again, is on the grid, and some that aren't on the grid.
Wow.
Even, you know, ironically, some camps and things that are E911 addresses that we plan for. And, you know, and I guess if you're at a hunting camp and you get sick of the cold, you can watch Netflix at your camp. But I think, you know, one important factor, I think, is that we have shown that you can bring this It is not just cream, skimming off the cream. And, you look at Burlington and they have 7 different providers in downtown Burlington, and you have rural areas that have none. And so we're trying to fill that void first. That's to make sure that we have that. And the beauty of it is those people didn't think they'd ever get any service at all, and they're getting the best in the world. We will put our system up against anybody's.
That will really help us once we get focused on revitalizing our economic development exactly. As the COVID lifts, as the restrictions lift. That's great. Very impressive. I knew you landed. This is so cool.
That's right. You did. You did.
So you mentioned a couple times, Chris, the CUDs. Can you go into a little more detail on what that is, how that all works, how somebody might be involved?
Sure. To do so, Eric, I'm going to go back a little bit in the history of EC Fiber, East Central Vermont Telecommunications District, because they started as a loose group of towns. 24 towns said, yeah, we're interested in this, knowing that they had no obligation to it. There was no commitment of money or time or anything else. It was just an idea that they might be able to work together. Well, what happened was after the initial investments, which frankly came from private investors, we built about 300 miles worth of fiber and got enough subscribers that the bond markets started looking and saying, oh, this is a model that can work. And with the communities joining together as a communication union district, or a CUD, they were able to leverage revenue bonds to support the capital work necessary to build these systems. And I want to be clear, revenue bonds are not backed by the community's general obligation. In other words, you cannot go into the tax base. You can't ask the community to shore up a failing system with money from the town or the taxpayers. Revenue bonds are exclusively paid for by the revenue you're getting from the subscriptions and the subscribers associated with it. And that's all that is guaranteeing those bonds. So you don't have if you forgive me, you will not have ever a Burlington Telecom type situation that you may recall, right?
That's right.
So what we've been able to do, though, is with the initial set of revenue bonds, build more, get more subscribers, show that we can pay the bond holders the principal and interest with leftover. We've been able to show that such that we've been able to go back to the bond market 5 times now and get increasingly, sorry, I should have said that the other way, get decreasing rates. So our interest rate payments are likely for this next bond offering we're doing in December for $11 million will likely be about 4.2%. And that's the best we've ever had. So we've been able to show that economically you can build to the last mile, you can serve everybody, and you can get enough subscriptions to pay for the capital that was invested to make it work.
So we just now need to get the state of Vermont to prioritize this a little bit more and start paying up and make this happen.
Well, yeah, well, the interesting thing is I got to give them credit. And, my successor at the Department of Public Service really emphasized this model when she took over. And as a result, the CUDs, as I said, the communication union districts or CUDs increased from just 1 EC Fiber to 9. And most of the state now is, the towns are members of one CUD or another. And so this is going to happen. And I will say the state did provide the structure. And until the CARES Act, the state, frankly, didn't have any money to invest in it. The best they could do was set up the policies to enable it. But with the CARES money, a lot of money has gone into trying to make this work for the CUDs. And it's certainly it certainly increased our ability to reach customers we might not have otherwise reached, like the mobile home parks I was talking about.
Yeah. And you said the legislature obviously gave you permission to do this in statute. So that's a good thing that they're
Yes,
supportive
absolutely.
of this.
Yeah.
So are you going to be reporting back to them about the success of all these cuds? And
Oh, no,
so
you're going to make
it's a
me,
good thing?
you're going to make me go to Montpelier, Pat?
Well, they don't read those reports anyway.
Yes. No, we're happy to do that, and we do that regularly.
Yeah.
And obviously, everything, all the meetings are by internet
Zoom,
now.
right,
Zoom.
right.
So, yeah, but it is pretty remarkable to see
That's
how
great.
this is completed.
Good for you.
Yeah.
So listen, you've been talking about your model, and I read about it, and it said now proven model. Could you
Right.
explain what that model is to people who have no clue, like me, about what this is all about?
Sure.
What does that look like structurally?
Yeah, so structurally what it looks like is first starts with a philosophy. And the philosophy is that this is an essential service for every household to have. Everyone needs this in order to equalize everything else we do in our society, from purchasing to working to education, right? So we start with that philosophy that everybody deserves this and needs it. And then we build communities together to leverage the number of customers, potential customers, that might be able to support these type of revenue bonds. And truthfully, it's about, to start, you probably need 2,000 or 3,000 households. EC Fiber right now has actively 5,125 as of September 30th. And, we're likely to go to about 8 to 10,000.
Wow.
And we added 8 new towns that were adjacent to us this summer, and that will probably add another 5,000 or 6,000. So of the 30,000 households in our region, we would expect to reach and to have as customers probably 15,000 of them, maybe 50% of them. And the model works by supporting the build of the system and the operation of the system, and then we're able to improve it over time. EC Fiber in the last 6 years, we've only increased our prices once, and that was this January by $5 for phone-related things. We actually lowered our price for the 25 megabits per second service by $2 a month. And over that time, we have increased our speeds 5 times.
Whoa.
So the speed started at like 5 megabits per second, and now it's 25 megabits per second. And our highest is 800, and we're considering increasing speeds again. So, we're very stable financially. That's the key about this model, is we're very stable as long as people subscribe. And we're not the cheapest, in the sense that you can get the triple play from Comcast or from other providers with with a contract that locks you in for a couple of years. We have no contracts. We have no teaser rates or anything like that. What you pay is what you pay. And if anything, the prices are going to go down over time as we add more customers.
Well, that's a sell.
Yeah.
That's an attractive byline. That's great. I know one time years ago, my husband worked at Bolton Valley, and they were so excited because they had this huge association of doctors coming up from Massachusetts, until they found out that they couldn't keep in touch with their offices. And so that ended poorly. That was very sad.
Yep.
So here you are to save them.
Trying.
We got about 5 minutes or so left here. I want to, you mentioned voice. I know last year you put out an RFP for a voice network project.
Right. Yes.
Can you give us an update on that and tell us what that's about?
Yeah, sure. So when we started early on, I will say, with 300 customers, 1,000 customers, we had a phone. We contract with a phone provider that provides a wholesale phone system for us. And frankly, we outgrew them in the last year or so. They were not able to keep up with us, and the quality kept getting worse, and we were getting more complaints from people. And so this is all voice over internet protocol, VoIP phone. And so the reason we did the RFP was to see if we could provide a new provider that was able to expand and grow with us, and also had better, better service quality. And so we're in the process of that transition now. I expect that we'll actually make, we did select a vendor back in August. We've been working with them since to do the transition. And I do expect that the phones will be converted over to their system in November timeframe, sometime in November. Yeah.
Excellent. Well, thank you. We out of time, Eric?
Well, I think we have about another couple minutes here. Can we just wrap this up by talking about, the future for broadband in rural Vermont, what we need to see happen to make that statewide last mile run, and just what does the future hold?
Yeah, so I think that, people have been looking at two different systems, kind of a fiber. I think fiber to the home is considered to be the stalwart standard bearer, in that it's reliable, it provides guaranteed speeds, and you can reach every home. It is expensive to build. And so there have been efforts to do a combination of fiber almost to the home and then a wireless component from there. But frankly, a wireless system is entirely different, and then you can't guarantee the speeds anymore, and there are a variety of things that can get in the way of that. So even though wireless is somewhat cheaper to put up, it really isn't as robust. What you got to realize is we're sending light through fiber optic cable at the speed of light, and that system need never change. We're changing things as electronics improve on either side of that, at the hub side and also at the home side. We can change out equipment really well and easily to update and improve speeds and continue to stay with the state of the art. But the fiber itself never needs to change because it is as fast as we can go. So we're really delighted with that system.
This has been this has been an exciting show, Chris. I think we're going to get a lot of viewers to listen in, because this is a topic that we have been talking about. I've never been involved in it directly, but in state government, it's been 10 years and maybe more.
Yep.
I mean, it's just been on, and I think you've got the answer. So that's a cool thing.
It may not be the only answer, but it's definitely working, and we are happy to help anyone, any community, and we are working with several of the CUDs. We're happy to help anyone to learn from our successes as well as our mistakes, because we've made some.
Well, it's a learning curve, right? I mean, this is sort of a new thing. So thank you very much for joining us. I will publicly state that I owe you dinner for going to the studio, and I'm not there. So I'll be in touch. Eric, thank you for helping to co-host, and thank you, viewers, for see you next week. And in the meantime, keep listening beyond the sound bites.